Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the UTS Animal Logic Academy webinar on choosing your specialisation and preparing your portfolio. My name is Alex Waite. I'll be your host for the night. We're also joined here by Shirley Yao, who's a graduate from last year. Hey, Shirley.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No problems.
We're storytellers here at the Academy, and it's a big part of what we do is tell stories and create stories. And we also like to acknowledge the original storytellers of the land that UTS stands on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and would like to pay our respects to elders past and present for them as well. So I did introduce us. There's extra photos of us if you'd like. So a quick background on myself. I've been in the industry now for about 30 years, primarily in animation, but working from animation through to animation direction and direction. And I've been the creative lead at the Academy now for a few years, actually, and I'm absolutely loving the process. Shirley, do you want to actually, I think we've got a slide for you, Shirley. No, here we go.
Oh, really?
You want
Okay.
to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Shirley. Previously, I came from a background in marketing, and then I decided to join the math program, and I chose production. And then I guess now I'm a production assistant at Flying Bark. So, yeah, that's
Fantastic.
my
And
journey.
congratulations as well. Shirley's done so well since. Well done.
Thank you.
So who we are, hopefully you know who we are and what we do, but in case you don't, the UTS Animal Logic Academy is a collaboration between UTS and Australia's leading 3D animation studio, Animal Logic. And it's set up to help bridge the gap between education and the industry, because we noticed there were a few kind of things missing of students who are leaving sort of their education. And there were a few key skills that they needed, and this course was created as a way to help them bridge that gap. So what we teach, we're a 1-year master's degree. So it's an accelerated master's. Most master's degrees are about 1.5 years. Ours is a year because it's full-time, and it's aimed at getting students from generalists to specialists. And by doing this, we do this by providing an industry-like, studio-like experience to help you get used to knowing what it's like once you get a job in industry. And we call it project-based learning. I'm just going to pause there for a second, just as a quick note, by the way. Don't feel like you have to write any of this down or record it, because there is an info pack that has all of this information and more. At the end of this webinar, I'll tell you where to download that info pack, or you can just go to our website, and that has all the information about what we'll be talking about tonight, or the specializations, what to include in your portfolio, how to apply, how to organize a one-on-one session if you need more information, and so on. So don't stress too much, because we will be moving quickly. There is a lot to get through tonight, and we have a short amount of time. And so we don't want to kind of labor over these slides for too long. So what is it we do? We do project-based learning. What does that mean? That means that when our students join us, we work together collaboratively on one project, like you would do if you had a job in industry. And so you learn by doing, rather than, we don't have classes and lectures and homework. It's a very, very unique, different way of learning. I know a lot of people find it a bit of a shock when they come and join us for the first time, but it is very fun. I mean, Shirley, how did you find it? You came straight from uni. What was your experience like when you first came and joined us?
It felt exactly like work, actually. So it felt like you're starting a new job and getting to know your teammates, and your leads are kind of like there for you as well. So yeah, it was very hands-on and practical. So
Great.
and
How is it similar to what you're doing at the moment, like to your work now at Flying Bar?
um a little bit, yeah. So I guess you learn a lot about the pipeline, and that's kind of very familiar once you kind of get into the industry. And just I guess the scale of things is a lot bigger now at Flying
Yeah.
Bark. So um but I think having that small teams at UTS was really nice. You get to like work really closely with the artists. So that's
Great.
something I miss, I guess. But
Yeah, no, of course. So it's good. Well, we aim to try and replicate what it's like being in industry as well. So hopefully that provides that. One more little note, everyone, by the way, if you go to the bar where you can see participants and chat and everything, you'll notice that there's a Q&A icon. Please use that throughout the webinar if you have any questions. The chat one doesn't work, so use the Q&A and one of us will see it and we can answer your questions as we go. There'll also be time at the end of the webinar to ask any more questions as well that we might have missed as we go. Brilliant. All right. So at the academy, the people who are teachers, leads like myself, come from industry. These are some of the movies that we've all worked on. We've all worked at a lot of these studios. I myself have worked at Flying Bark, Animal Logic, Rising Sun, both here and overseas. And so our other leads as well have come from places like Animal Logic and ILM too. And the point being is that we want to try and run the academy and run the course in the same way it's done at these big studios, to give people as close as possible to this kind of studio experience and environment. So here's a current trailer to get a sense of some of the projects we've done over the last few years. Enjoy. Again, there we go. I'm always amazed actually at the end of the year how much the students have progressed to come together and make some of these projects. Our project last year, and the one that we're going to be using as an example, was, what was it, Shirley? It was like 7.5 minutes long, I think. It was
Yep.
It was the longest one we've ever done, and it was amazing. And it's incredible that people who've never worked together like this can output that work. Yeah, it was really impressive. So here's a quick breakdown of our year. We break our year up into 3 trimesters. We call them studios, studio 1, 2, and 3. The general idea is studio 1 is pre-production, getting the story right, storyboards, designing everything, previs, early blocking animation, and so on. Studio 2 is called the collaboration studio, but it's the emerging technology project. So every year that's different. So last year we did a project using Blender and grease pencil. We really wanted to shoot for that kind of Spider-Verse, Nimona kind of style, which was super fun. That was called Coffee Break. This year we did a VFX project about skateboarding robots who are kind of like vandals. And we shot a whole lot of that using kind of iPhones and incorporated that sort of VFX pipeline into our process. Next year, who knows? It's different every year because we're always trying to do something different. Then Studio 3 is basically production. So that's a closer simulation of what it's like being in studio as an artist. Probably a little bit different for production, Shirley, but for the animators and the modelers and everything, Studio 3, that's kind of, same. You can take someone out and drop them into a studio and they'll be working basically the same as they would in industry. Now, I can just see that there's a couple of questions have come up. How long does it take to get an offer from when you after send in a showreel to us? Well, we have a double process applying for our academy. It is a showreel process and a portfolio process and an interview. So once you've sent through your portfolio, then it will be reviewed by the leads and by the staff here at the academy. And then if you're successful, you'll get an email to organize an interview where we have a chat to you about that as well, to make sure that this is the right course for you, because it is very specific. It's a very kind of specific kind of course and it's not for everyone. And we need to make sure that everyone who joins us knows what it is that they're doing. And hopefully this webinar tonight will help you do that, because a big part of joining us is knowing exactly what your specialization is, because once you do that, that's what you're doing for the whole year. All right. Ah, there we go, Shirley.
Oh,
There you
hello.
are. So, can I just ask, because I know you did a Bachelor of Commerce, which is coming from a very different background.
Yeah.
What made you decide to join in production?
Um, well, I guess I did do commerce, but I guess in on the side, I've always liked to do a lot of creative projects and I love working with artists and just creative people. So, um, and then I guess I also love film and animation on the side as a hobby. So I think it just kind of connected and I didn't know this kind of job existed either.
Yep,
I just thought
yep.
I needed to be an artist and um but I think I guess I really do enjoy supporting artists. So I think this I don't know, it just kind of made sense for me. So I
Yeah.
said I was going to specialize and this course was a good place to kind of start that and
And
commit.
can you remember what you had in your portfolio? Because coming in from production, and this
All
is a
right.
question we always get, what do production people include in their portfolio? We're going to talk about it a bit later, but do you remember what you submitted?
I did. I think I did a lot of I put in some of my side projects. So
Hmm.
I have previously like helped my friends work on a cosplay and that might have been then. I did some like filming and photography jobs as well on the side. So that might have been in there. And then I've also probably done some like volunteering stuff back when I did the bachelor's degree. So
I remember that. I think that was a
yeah,
big part of why we wanted you to come on board because of the extra work and helping work that you've done. So, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
well done.
yeah. So it was always fun for me to do those kinds of things. So I think if you have all these passions and side projects, just put it in the portfolio.
Great. Excellent. I can see there's a couple of questions here. Just a quick, I'll go through a few of them really quickly. Yes, we accept applicants from all over the world. Please do apply where, we have a big contingent of internationals every year. If you've lost your work, we will need to see something, I'm afraid. So I recommend if you're an animator, then wait till we get to the animation section, or I'll talk about what's needed. And, I recommend doing a little bit more work in that area. The webinar is not going to be uploaded on YouTube, and the style of the project changes every year. And we determine that at the beginning of the year with the students, but we have a certain thing that we like to try to do because we want to do something different every year as well. Okay, so the making of a loan. This was a project that we did last year. It's a story about a robot who is taking care of a spaceship filled with humans going to a new planet, and it's lonely, so it decides to make a friend. We're using this as the example of how we determine these departments, what the departments do, and we'll be showing you a little bit of it at the end of the webinar as well. So we'll be breaking down how this was made with 40 students, one film, and 30 weeks of production. I mean, it's 30 weeks with people who've never been in production before and also who have, never really worked together before. To turn out a 7.5 minute film is an amazing achievement as well. Really, really, really impressive. So, and it can only be done by working together and collaborating. I mean, that's really the industry. So let's get into it. And again, don't worry too much about writing everything down because there will be a document that you can download that I'll give you the link later on where you can find all this information. So one team made up of 11 departments. Here we are, Shirley. Where are you? Shirley, you're front and
In the
center.
middle.
Front and center, of course. 11 departments: art department, modeling, rigging, animation, previs and layout, surfacing, effects, lighting, compositing, technical direction or TDs, and production. Now, these departments sometimes have different variables depending on the type of company. So say a games company or a VFX company might have different kind of the way that a layout department works might be a little bit different, or the way that compositing works in VFX versus animated features is a little bit different. For the point of this webinar, we'll be talking about the process that we use, which is the animated feature pipeline. It's closer to Animal Logic, Flying Bark, Blue Sky, Disney, Pixar, that kind of thing. Now, it's not to say that any of these skills aren't still relevant in games and VFX. Of course they are, but the way that we're kind of writing this out and talking about this tonight will be specifically about feature animation. Let's kick off with art department. So what does art department do? I'm pretty sure a lot of you should know about this, but let's go over some of the details and the specifics that you might not know. Art department with us does storyboards. In the bigger companies, storyboards are split off into separate departments. It's a very, very different skill set. And a storyboard is then given to the editor and cut together to make the animatic. And it's the first time that we get kind of like a moving sense of the film and the story. Storyboard artists help determine the shot count, the style, what's happening in the shots, what are we seeing. So it's a visual representation of the script for the first time. They are also designing everything. They design everything. So we can't, a modeling department can't start modeling until we have a design from the storyboards. It has to be done. So as you can see here in the top left, what this is called orthographics, right? So we need to give something to the modeling department that shows the top, the side, and the front of the entire asset so they can model it perfectly. It also is an indicator for the surfacing department later on to know what colors they have to surface at as well. So everything that you see, everything in every asset that is seen in an animated feature is designed first in the art department. Also, characters. We went through many, many, many iterations of the characters, how they look, what they do, to determine about their performance, their emotion, and everything like that as well. And then down the bottom here, these are called color keys. So color keys are a more rendered panel of the shots in the film that give the lighting department an indication of what we're shooting for. What's the mood of the shot? What's the light of the shot? What's the color of the shot? Is it dark? Is it bright? Is it saturated? Is it desaturated? And so on. So every shot in the film has to be kind of rendered to a certain level to give those departments that kind of information. We also give surfacing information and texture information to the surfacing department too. So there is so much that is done in art department in pre-production, and people always ask what happens to art department later in the year. There's still work. There's still lots of work. But what we also do, and this is the only department that this happens in, by the way. So I just want everyone to understand this if you're thinking about art department always ends up moving into either lighting or surfacing in order to help out a bit more in those departments. Not just because it's needed, but because I feel, and we all feel, and we've seen that artists who have moved into, say, lighting or surfacing, it has helped their art in the long run as well. And it doesn't, it doesn't hurt to have many other options for employability later on too. Just quickly check the Q&A. Can a student not currently studying at UTS apply and achieve a position? Of course. You can be studying anywhere, any course, anywhere. We are a master's degree. As long as you've done an undergrad, then you are able to join us. That is fine. Your goal is to become an animator. Is an opportunity to focus solely on animation? Yes. So in case it's not clear, as a master's degree, you have to pick one department and one skill set, and you specialize in that, and you only do that throughout the duration of the entire year. That's it. You don't get to, we're not doing generalists here. We are getting people ready for the big studios, where if you go for a job at a big studio, you're not doing everything. You're doing the one thing, right? And so that's the same thing that we do at the course as well. And how many people per year? Yeah, we're about between sort of, around 40. About 40 per year is how many we do per year. It changes a little bit up and down by a few, but not much more. Okay, so if you are interested in applying for art, and these are the color keys and what we call the color script. So again, this is what we give to the lighting department to give them an indication of the color and the tone of, and the emotion really of what we want from each of the scenes and the whole flow of the color flow of the whole short film. It's really fun. I love this part of the process as well. It's really interesting. All right, so what to include in your portfolio if you're interested in art department: traditional art, character art, environment art, props and vehicle concept, life drawing, storyboards. Now, I really just say this about art department. It is the most competitive department out there in the industry. So if you're not coming from a fine art background, there is a lot to do. You'll have a lot of work to get up to speed. And look, most of our people are like that. But I do get artists to really level up quickly because you need to understand all the fundamentals of art that will be needed that you'll get at a life drawing at a fine arts degree, like form, life drawing, anatomy, color theory, 2 and 3 point perspective, contrast, light, everything like that is needed in order to kind of succeed in the art department. So what we want to see is everything and variety if possible. I know I made a comment about manga a while ago and someone thought that I hated manga. I don't. I love it. It's great. The only thing about manga style characters is that they tend to look very similar. Sometimes you can see a manga character drawn by one person and one by another person, and I can't tell the difference between the both of them because they use often templates, right? Template drawings. So I don't mind that, but please show us that you can do more than just manga style characters or artwork. Because if you get a job at a studio, they probably won't be doing that, especially in Australia. So it's good to know that you've got versatility. Modeling. So Shirley, you manage the modeling department, is that right?
Yep, one of them. Yeah, one of the
One of them. You had a few under your belt. And what department are you in at the moment at Flying Barn?
Right now, production assistant for this current project is kind of all departments, but the project I was in before, it was specifically for lighting and comp. So
Okay, great.
which were departments I never touched during the course, but like all the departments kind of depend on each other, so you kind of know
sure.
how everything works.
It's good. Good to get an idea of the different levels as well, different departments in production.
Yeah.
Modeling. Okay, so modeling takes the drawings and models it. We are focused on just the topology, just the model. Modeling department modelers might move into surfacing, but for the point of what we do and what industry does, you are just focused on the models, on the 3D geometry. The industry standard is Maya, by the way. Everything pushes through Maya. And also all our models, we have a USD-based render-man pipeline, industry standard again as well, which means our models all get subdivided at the end. So you need to know how to model for a subdivided pipeline, which means for those who know what I'm talking about, if you model something and you press 3 on your keyboard in Maya, it still maintains the same form, right? So that is what's needed if you're modeling in industry in this kind of pipeline. So here's a little nice turntable of our hero from last year. It was such a good model. It worked out. And it was so much fun to animate this one as well. I really loved it. All right. So modelers do everything. They do the props, the sets, the environments, everything, everything obviously needs to be done to nice, clean topology and saving topology where it's needed. If we don't need to add too much, then we take it out, right? So you have to be clever about what you're doing. So it can't just be a sculpt. I know people out there and modelers like ZBrush. That's great, but it needs to be animatable. It needs to not have a billion polygons if it's a tiny asset in the background. So you need to know how to model things at not low poly, but at a reasonable poly that won't kind of kill your computer if you have a lot of them in shot. The environments here again as well. So there are different kinds of modelers. Some people like doing organic modeling, some people character, some people environment. At our course, we'll be doing a bit of everything. And people tend not to specialize in the specifics of things like modeling and animation till they had a few years in industry under their belt. So what to include in your portfolio: hard surface models, organic models, environment models, and props. So look, all of this for modeling, what I'm going to say really is what we want to see is topology. Okay, that's it. We don't need to see it lit. We don't need to see it surfaced. We don't need to see anything else. It can be a screenshot of your model from any software, right? Ideally Maya, but if you do it in Blender, that's fine. But all we want to see is a gray shaded model of your model with the topology on, with the edge loops on, right? That is the most important, because if you don't send that, we'll just send you an email saying, can you please do that for us? So save us the time. And we just want to see variety, everything from something simple to like a cup or a mug or a chair to something complex like a character, if you'd like to show us that as well. Quickly check the questions. How many students apply per year on average? It changes every year, but I think we've got an acceptance rate of about 3 to 1, but I'm not quite sure on that. If you want to become a TD, what sort of project should you feature in a portfolio? I'll get to that in terms of what TDs should apply with, but basically it's showing us, send us links to your GitHub and show us what you've been doing, really. Yeah, on here we work in Python. If you can code a little bit in Mel for, for the Maya students and for everyone else, that's good as well. But really it's just showing us a bit about what you've done as well. For modeling specialization, should we provide still images or turntables? I really don't mind. Really, it doesn't matter as long as it's just, gray shaded with the topology showing. Rigging. If anyone has any desire to become a rigger, please, please, please join us for rigging, because we only get about once. Last year we didn't have a rigger, right, Shirley?
Yeah.
We had to get help. This year we have one rigger, and riggers
Wow.
are desperately needed. Yeah, we've got one this year. Yeah, Isabella, she's doing amazing work. It's awesome.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and rigging is this great combination. Rigging is like effects, I think, like Houdini. It's this great combination of both creative, artistic, and technical. It combines them both. Rigging is not just kind of blend, putting bones in an object or a character and kind of making it deform. It's also creating the controls. So the control rig and the deform rig, they're two different skills. Are a lot of fun. Rigging works very, very closely with the animation department and helps them get the job done. They get work straight away. We're getting asked a lot can we get more riggers out there too? So if you have any interest in rigging and that's your kind of vibe, please do join up because we need some riggers for next year. So what to include? Anything you've rigged, right? Basically body rig, face rig, or a hand and foot. Like a good leg rig with foot roll and everything says a lot about your ability to rig. Look, in this case, it is Maya, right? As much as it's nice to kind of see a rig in other software, the industry standard and what we use is Maya. So we need to know that you can rig in Maya because we're not really a learn how to rig course. You need to have some fundamentals down already. But really, it's just anything that you've done in rigging in Maya would be great. And look, if you have done it in another software, that's fine. I'd still want to see that as well. And it can be either a video or just the my file, anything that you want to send through. How are we going for time? Okay, good. Surfacing. Here was our surfacing team. Okay, surfacing then takes the gray shaded model from modeling department and makes it colorful and pretty. It is more than just kind of color selecting and dropping a color onto an object, because surfacing tells a story. It tells you whether or not the object is new or old, whether or not it's been worn. There is so much that goes into surfacing that really can kind of help the story. We call it environmental storytelling. So it tells the audience right away. The audience fills in the gaps and they look at something and say, oh, okay, that's been around for a while. It's old, or it's brand new and it shouldn't be touched because it's clean, or it can tell so much about a character and an environment. There's a lot more than just color picking. And it's really, really fun to start kind of like adding these little bits of information and little things to kind of, make these objects more interesting. This was our friend character from last year's project. We wanted to give it a little bit of a scuffed up look, not too much, just a little bit, because the pieces that our hero used to build it were kind of old secondhand pieces. So, we had, a lot of fun just, the first pass, it was really over the top, and then we had to pull it right back because it just looked it looked too messy.
And someone asked which program we used for surfacing.
Good question. Okay, so we used to use Substance, and then Adobe stopped supporting Substance for Linux, unfortunately. And yes, we are Linux. Most companies out there are Linux. I don't know. Are you Linux over at Flamebark? Or are you on Windows? Do you know what the artists are?
Windows.
Windows,
Yeah, Windows, but I don't know. We have a lot of different PCs.
yeah. Yeah, I know that the big, that Animal, ILM, Framestore, not Flamebark, sorry, Framestore, and the ones overseas as well are all Linux based. So what we're using out at the Academy is Mari. Mari has fast become the industry standard for surfacing. And so we want to make sure that our students are leaving us with the tools and the skills that are needed in industry. So if industry changes and they say, hey, we're using only Substance, then we would change the Substance. Okay, when we have no interest in kind of forcing a piece of software onto our students, every year at the end of the year, we catch up with all the studios and talk to them about what they're doing, what they need, what software they're using, and we pivot. Every year we change according to what's needed for industries to make sure that our students are leaving with, the most up-to-date kind of skill set. So surfacing, props, all the assets, everything, different materials, different objects, organic objects as well. What to include, again, anything that you've done. And in this case, it doesn't have to be just in Mari. We're very happy to see any surfacing work that you've done in any other software, because in this case, it is down to kind of your eye and the skill set rather than the software. The software can be taught, right? What we're interested in seeing is that how you approach surfacing. Do you think about different roughness? Some areas matte, some areas glossy and shiny, some is soft, some is hard. Is there wear and tear? Are the wear and tear in the right place? Things like that. So a turntable for surfacing is always great. That shows the quality of your shaders. Really, it's just about showing us what you can do, and not too concerned about the software there as well. Okay, so someone's asked about, as a non-native English speaker, can you apply? Yes, you can. We do have an ELR though, and UTS has that in general. But for our course as well, there's a higher number in terms of the vocal comprehension. ELR stands for English Language Requirement. That is because a lot of the communication that happens in industry and at our course is verbal. So we'll run dailies in the morning, which is where we all get together as a group and look at everyone's work together on the screen, and that's done verbally. Then in the afternoon as well, we do desk rounds where we walk around together as a group and look at work, and we can get a little bit more technical. And again, that's done verbally. Will be written notes that are given from production. And how does that, so you're still doing that at the moment, Shirley. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you're doing notes at the moment for artists?
Right now, not too much. It is through ShotGrid.
Yeah.
And then I guess back in Mav, I was putting the notes in ShotGrid, but it was also good that all the artists would write their own notes as well. So
Yeah.
you have a notebook, or you can write it online as well and just type it up. But like also in the industry, there are lots of everyone is international, everyone's from everywhere, so we all kind of work together.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, yeah, you at the end of the day, you have to take your own notes, because it's your responsibility to get that done. But you do get supported by production as well. So yeah, surfacing. Then after surfacing, we move into previs and layout. Here was our fantastic team from last year. So previs and layout, what are they? They are different departments at different studios. So Shirley, do you have are they separate departments at Flying Bark, or are they the same department? You know?
Not in my current project because it
Yeah,
is a little bit smaller for the CG kind of layout. So
yeah,
they start off by doing the previous and then they kind of do the final layout.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So so basically at the standard, what I'll talk about really quickly is a standard sort of animated feature process, like the Animal Logic one, the Disney sort of Pixar kind of format, which is previs is a 3D animatic of the storyboards. So it's a very rough 3D version of the storyboards. The characters do what's called chess piecing, where they just slide around the place instead of kind of being animated too much. If you look online and you look up previs from like the Avengers or something, you can see all these cool kind of previous shots, and it's how you can visualize what's going to happen in the film. So then that gives us a sense of the whole movie, and then layout happens later on. And layout, so previs is what's called off pipe. We don't save anything from previs apart from a movie file. That's it. Whereas in layout's on pipe, and layout's working with the animation, and the only thing layout does is work with the camera. So a layout artist is basically a digital cinematographer. They are it suits people who like photography, it suits people who like direction, it suits people who kind of like telling stories. Well, both departments really do. Previs is a good area for people who like to visualize the whole film and have a say in kind of like the flow and the cinematography of the whole project. You're right up at the beginning of the pipeline, and it kind of informs the rest of the project. You do have to be a bit of a generalist. I know at Flying Bark and at a couple of studios, previous artists are expected to be pretty good animators as well, right? So they're expected to be able to animate pretty well, know cinematography quite well, know story quite well, model reasonably as well, and add kind of basic lighting, as you can see here. So it's probably the most generalist form that you have in the animated feature pipeline, whereas layout is just camera. That's it. So these are some screenshots of our previous from last year's project. Here's a example of the previous shot. So as you can see, it's pretty basic. And that's it, right? So it tells the story. It's given to edit. Edit's able to cut this into the animatic with the other shots around it and then build the film. And from here, we can adjust timing and length, and it gives us a sense of the duration of the edit. It's a really, really fun and important part of the process. Now here is a layout shot. So when you get to layout, all you're doing is camera. So layout would bring in assets that have been published, assets that are kind of on pipeline, and that could include the environment and the animation. And then all layout is doing is just working on the camera. So they're not touching anything else. So in this case, the animation was done by a different artist, but the camera was just done by one artist. We only had one layout artist actually last year.
Yep.
Is he?
He's at Flying Bar.
He's Peter's over at Flame Buck as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
why wouldn't he be? He did such an amazing job. So as you can see from this shot, it was a really long, crazy shot that we had this idea for. I had this crazy idea that I wanted to start a shot that was starting from a galaxy and moving into this robot watering a plant. So the sense of scale was from big to small, and we did it. It was really successful and looks beautiful. But yeah, Peter did a great job and did many, many, many versions of this shot until we kind of got the feel and the tone and the pacing of it right. But while that was happening, Judasak, who was the animator, was working on the animation at the same time, right? So there's a bit of back and forth between animation and layout, but Peter was just doing the camera move, and that's all that layout does. It's a lot of fun.
And the assembly as well of the sets.
And assembly. So, I mean, that can be done across modeling department and layout, which is assembling the set, absolutely. And I know, again, this is one of those things that in different companies, they're managed different ways. Animal Logic has an assembly department. I know Flying Buck, I think, gets the layout to do the assembly. And at ILM, layout's a whole different thing altogether as well. Layout's more of a sort of VFX component too. So there's a different kind of workflow when you start getting into VFX layout as well. So if you're interested in previous and layout, what do you include? So in that it's a little bit more of a generalist role, it's great to show us a bit of everything, right? So show us any basic animation you've done, show us any modeling you've done. But if you really want to get into it, what is always great to see is to copy a scene of one of your favorite movies. I do suggest a live action movie, not an animated movie, because that's a photocopy of a photocopy, right? So get like, and not much, like, 4 or 5 shots, and try and replicate that in 3D using basic assets. So don't spend time modeling things beautifully because you're not going to be a modeler, right? So if they're going to be a chair or a table in the background, just make it a cube, right? That's enough to indicate what we're sort of going for. And then put a little window up in the top right or left-hand corner of the shots that you're copying from the film that you like, and then show us, can you do that? Can you mimic a live action camera across 3 or 4 shots? That honestly says, a huge amount about your ability in animation, staging, lensing, everything. It's really, it's a really fun process to do as well. Animation. This was my background. Here are our animators. Animation is where we give life to the characters. So at the beginning of the process, we do these things. These are kind of called performance tests. It's very similar to kind of finding the character. It's like casting an actor for the film. And so we gave the animators this rig, and we kind of played around with different posing, different attitudes. I believe this one was done by Judasak. And we didn't know how mechanical this robot was going to be. Was it going to be smooth? Was it going to move jankily like a robot? how much expression and motion could we actually get just from two ears and, these kind of round eyes. And it turns out quite a lot actually through body pose. It's a really, really fun part of the process. And obviously I'm a bit biased here, but, I absolutely love animation. And it's great now as well that we've got so much animation happening in Australia. Flying Bark is getting bigger and bigger all the time. There are great projects happening over there. Animal Logic's got big stuff coming down the pipe in the future. So does ILM. Even the smaller studios, Finn, Blackbird, all these other studios around town have got a lot on. So it's just really exciting. It's a really exciting time. So part of the process for animation is what's called blocking, moving from blocking into spline. So if you don't know, blocking is a part of the process that's a simple form of defining the basic poses that will be used for the shot. So you can see here, it's about the pose and the timing, right? So we know what the character is doing. The character lifts up its arm and waves. The timing's there. We can work to that timing. That's good. So then what happens after that? We move into spline, which is where we now add the offsets, the arcs, and give the character a little bit more life. And here's that same shot, but through spline. Yeah, it was beautiful. It's really fun. Excellent. So what to include in your portfolio? Anything you've animated, right? But if you really want to know kind of, if you want the best, it's always great to see a walk cycle. Love a walk cycle, biped or a quadruped, both are fantastic. The bouncing ball test, do not underestimate a good bouncing ball test. That says a lot about your ability to understand the fundamentals of weight, timing, speed, ins, outs, arcs, curves, overlap, secondary, the whole lot. You can do all of that with a good bouncing ball test and a performance animation. So if you want to break it down, like the gold standard kind of portfolio or reel would be a walk cycle, a bouncing ball, and a performance animation, or something physical as well, like a run and a jump. I've interviewed thousands and thousands of animators over the course of my career, and have hired animators on almost less than that, because though if you do those three things very well, pretty much you can do almost anything. Just a quick question here. Which specializations are in demand at the moment other than rigging? I'd say at the moment there's a big push towards Houdini. Houdini's so effects. There's a big kind of need for Houdini at the moment. There's a big need for TDs at the moment as well. And sort of obviously, I think lighting and comp as well. But outside of like rigging effects and TDs are probably the hot three today. At the end of the year, though, and going into next year, we're going into kind of like a big rise in projects. So it's pretty open across the board, which is really nice. So I can't really kind of focus. It's hard to tell as well what the industry does, what's going to happen. At the moment, I'd say it's looking good for those more technical ones. And then at the moment, it looks like at the end of the year and into next year, it's going to be open across the board, but I can't guarantee anything. Are there many job opportunities for animators after graduation? Look, just to be very clear, we are not a placement course. We don't give you a job, we don't place you, but we work very, very closely with the graduates at the end of the year in Studio 3 to help give you a best opportunity to find work. So we work with you on creating your LinkedIn, your reel, your portfolio, your cover letter. We do demo and test interviews as well to help relax you and get used to what's the process will be. We have recruitment nights. We have industry come in and speak to our students. We have HR and recruiters come in and speak to them. I mean, Shirley, can you tell us about you? How did you get your job? Like, what happened? What was your part of the process in doing that?
So I think what really helped was the industry night at the end. Like also, I guess Flying Buck had recruiters and who came along to a few of our presentations in
Yep.
studio. I think so. So you kind of meet a lot of the recruiters that come in, and at the end of the year when you're available for work, you're able to reach out to them and they know who you are. So that's nice. And then for me, I actually just applied for a job online. I think it was an expression of interest. And I then messaged the recruiter and she was able to get back to me with an opportunity that just came up. That was completely different to the one online, actually. So
Yeah, fantastic. No, good. Well, I'm glad it helped. And so, look, we do try our best to try and get everyone work at the end of the year. It's look, we're very proud of our recruitment rate. I know last year there's been a bit of a dip in the industry, but it looks like that's kind of changing, coming up to be changing soon, which is really, really exciting for everyone. Okay, moving on. Effects. Effects used to, this was our fantastic effects team from last year. Now, when we think effects, we think explosions, dust, water, stimulations, that kind of stuff. And that used to be like the core of what effects does. The industry standard is Houdini and still is Houdini. And Houdini is looking like it's taking over everything at the moment. It's moving into modeling. It's moving into kind of character effects, muscle, sims, all that kind of stuff. It's moving into lighting as well. So there are so many different areas that effects now touches. It's really, really exciting. So as you can see here, these plants, all the plants were generated by the effects department. The water was generated by the effects department as well. So it's not just, again, smoke and explosions. What have we got here? Oh yeah, so these were some of the water tests, the simulations that our students did, and trying to work out how the water would interact with the leaves. You know, would it hit and just fall past, or is the water sticky? Does it get, some parts of it get stuck to the leaves as well? Effects artists, and I have to say, like animators, it's always good to have an understanding of basic physics, because weight and timing and physics is so important in those departments. Just remind me of one thing for the animators. Just quickly back to the animators. For your portfolio and your reel, no need to have beautifully lit and rendered animations. I'm very, very happy to see them just as grayscale, same as the modeling department, because we're not looking at anything else apart from how it moves. Okay, so for effects, same kind of thing. If you've got a good eye for weight and physics, then that's really going to help. That's really going to help you see and work better, because you should know instinctively, does something move right? Does it not move right? Is the weight of something off, or is it not working? You know, so having that kind of being an observer of the natural world is what our current effects says. You know, being able to see the world and then look at what you've done on screen and be able to tell the difference. So if you can do that, then you're, already have a good eye. But that is a big part of this department, is training that eye, understanding what works and what doesn't work. In this case here, it's just a few things that the guys did in a project last year. This was the core, the battery core inside the characters, smoke and steam that came out and that the robot interacts with. These were our plants. So pretty. They're generating rocks and pebbles to go inside the plant thing as well. Oh, and that hand mop as well at the beginning. There you go. Little bits of water being left behind. So much fun. Excellent. What to include? Okay, so procedural modeling or animation, particle sims, rigid body sims, fluid sims, e.g. pyro or liquid, and any character effects like fur, clothes, and etc. So try to show a variety of effects. They can be fully rendered or play blasts. Now, here's a big one. I know Raf wants me to kind of mention this. If you are replicating a tutorial in Houdini to do an explosion, a fireball, or something like that, that's great. That is really, really good. But it's a start. What he wants to see is what can you do beyond that? How can you take it a bit further? What have you changed beyond the basic tutorial to make it your own? Have you, just do something a little bit more with it, and that's going to set you above and beyond already. Make sure to add references and picture-in-picture. And if you're new to Houdini, a free version is available on sideeffects.com, along with free tutorials to get you up to speed as well. Oop, we skip people. Lighting department. We had a fantastic lighting department last year. As you can see from our finished product, it looked absolutely amazing. So lighting takes these color keys and turns it into a rendered frame. So here's a great example. The top left here is the color key from art department. Over on the top right is what they were given, right? That's the layout shot. And at the bottom here is the lit and rendered shot. It's pretty amazing, actually. It's really, really impressive. Lighting department, we have a few photographers always come through in the lighting department because having an understanding of how light works is great. On a side note, 2D artists who have moved into lighting have done very well because they have an understanding of color theory and light as well. And weirdly, what's really cool, unexpectedly, the 2D artists who have gone into lighting and then gone back into the art department it's really helped them with their environment work because they have a better understanding of how light works because, what's art but painting with light. So we've got a quick question. How much of Houdini was taught and how much was already known? Great question. So with all the departments, there is a we need to have a certain level of understanding, right? So we're not to learn how to animate course. We're not to learn how to model course. We need you to be up to a certain level so we can take your skill set and elevate you to an industry or high industry standard to develop these projects. Here's the exception, Houdini, because Houdini isn't really taught much out there elsewhere. So most of the people who come to us have taught themselves Houdini. So we make an allowance for that. We make an allowance that there's an understanding that people coming into the effects department won't be Houdini experts. So what we do is during Studio One, when art department and everyone else is doing pre-production, we are doing a lot of on-site knowledge in training people up in those Houdini fundamentals. Now, it does help if you've got some of those fundamentals down already, but we will be getting people up to speed in Houdini and some of those skill sets by kind of doing a lot of pre-production learning in Studio One in Houdini. We also offer I think we're doing a Houdini course sometime as well, but keep an eye on our socials about that. I'm not quite sure if that's still happening. Yes, Matt Estella is good. Matt Estella used to work here at the Academy. He's still a friend of the Academy, comes in and gives talks all the time as well. And his tutorials and courses online are fantastic, if you don't mind swearing. All right, here are some of the lighting shots. They're just beautiful for last year's project. Light and color really came into play in terms of the emotion of our short film. And here's a little bit of a procedural work in progress of lighting. Well, we're about coming up to it. Our timing's going very well. Brilliant. And that takes us to, oh, here we go. There's more. There's more. There's more. Layers and layers. So this is a good time actually to explain about comp, because this is going to take us to compositing. Compositing will take all these layers from lighting, as you're seeing here, lay them together and build the shot. So comp is really the final stage of the whole process. This is where we start taking all these elements like you would do as layers in Photoshop, but they're moving, right? And then each layer is graded, adjusted, added blur, added movement, change the colors a little bit, change the texture a little bit in order to have everything sit together and work properly in a final shot. So lighting, what to include in your portfolio? Ideally, a variety of scenes and times, day and night, natural, and so on, and different objects. There are lots and lots of environments that you can download for free. If anyone knows the website Turbo Squid, you can get office rooms or outside areas and everything for free. Right? Don't pay for anything, please. But there are nice, decent scenes and environments there that you can easily kind of either have pre-textured or texture up yourself and light very simply. Software doesn't matter. Okay, we use Katana and RenderMan, which is again the currently industry standard, but you can show us lighting in Blender or Unreal. Doesn't matter, because again, in this case, what we're looking at is your ability and your eye, your understanding of how light works. Are you able to understand the difference between a key light, a fill light, and a rim light? Okay, and how you use those three lights to create the emotion and the time of day in your shot. So yeah, software doesn't matter. Again, all of this is available in the downloadable pamphlet that I'll show you at the end, so don't get too worried about all the text there. You can find that online when we get to the end. Compositing. So compositing builds all this together and makes it beautiful. Are the number of people in each department already fixed, or are they determined by the number? We try to get between around sort of 6 to 8 people per department, because that feels like it's a good blend of people across the board. Yeah, that's worked quite well across the project so far. So what is comp? Comp is building the shot, adding all the layers together, adding light, adding glow, adding lens flares, adding all these little bits, painting things out if they're not needed. Compositing in VFX is also a little bit more sort of camera tracking, stuff like that as well. So it is a little bit different depending on the style of work that you're doing and the kind of the industry you're in. But really, it's about finishing. It's finishing the shot to make it look as good as possible. So here's an idea. So different layers. Now the industry standard for compositing is Nuke. It's what we use, and so if you've only used After Effects, there are some very good tutorials online of moving from After Effects into Nuke. I suggest you check them out as well. But for us and in industry, you would need to understand and know how to use Nuke. So here's some fun things. Depth of field can be added in comp. Lens distortion, glow, lens flares, all these little fun, exciting things that you can do to the image to finish it and make it look more filmic at the end of the process. Again, this works well with people who like detail. Works well with people who are photographers. It's a really kind of like high detailed, highly polished part of the process. It's a nice shot. What to include? So full CG composited shots, any live action composited shots, and demonstrating CG element integration. So if you've made a 3D model, you found a 3D model, and you put it on a street outside, can you match the lighting? Can you get it to sit? It's called sitting in the frame, right? So it looks believable. It can be still, it can be moving, ideally moving. And if you've done any sort of tutorial work in Nuke, would love to see that. If it is in After Effects, that's fine. Show us if you've tracked any shots. There are lots of elements online that you can get green screen elements. Show us what you've done with green screen elements as well, and give us a breakdown of how you've laid it up and a bit of information about what you've done with that and built that asset. Which brings us to TDs. TDs, look at all this code. So TDs, as I said, are one of the desperately needed people in industry at the moment, because TDs are used, there are TDs in every single department. That you can have animation TDs, lighting TDs, modeling TDs. They work with the artists in order to help them get their job done by writing tools, fixing things, doing bug testing, a whole lot of stuff. There's also pipeline TDs who work more in the background and working on the actual pipeline process. But we need TDs for our process every year. We didn't have one this year, which is really unfortunate. But last year we had 2 great TDs, and they're both working at ILM now. So they're working on cool Star Wars projects. Amazing. If you know anyone who's done a comp sci degree and they think that they have to go into IT, tell them they don't have to. Tell them they can work on a Star Wars movie. Come and join us. We need some next year, and it's a great training program of how to get into this kind of part of the process. Yes, it's Python. Yes, having a bit of Mel knowledge would help as well, but really it's Python based too. So this was a little tool that Krista did for us. It was like giving us an auto roll script for the robot's wheels. So it would roll instead of the animators having to do that by hand. It would work out the speed and everything of the rotation of the wheel. It's really, really cool. Saved us a lot of time. What to include? So documented experience in coding. So give us a Git repository, your GitHub link of any work that you've done. Show us what you've done in Python is mandatory. Examples of group work that you've done, working with other people, problem solving and so on, and any plugin development you might have done for any creative applications. There we go, where possible. Whoop, sorry, just going to go back one. Show examples of your work that are done within sort of like a visualization context. and we use Maya, Mari, Katana, Houdini, and so on. So if you've done any work in those kind of areas, that would be great as well, but not necessary. Production coordination, Sam and Shirley. So Shirley, there you are.
Yeah,
Production.
production.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what production is?
I guess like now that we've seen all the departments, we're kind of like the glue between each of the departments. So
Mhm.
whenever someone has an issue in modeling, um, then we have to go and tell the riggers or go to surfacing. There's a lot of upstream and downstream kind of tracking and how like shots go. So that's kind of what we do, and we just support the director and the supervisors. So yeah, there's
Yeah,
a, every day is a little bit different. You're like one day you're taking notes for one department, and then you're doing a shot breakdown for another day. So yeah, it's
it's
fun.
awesome. I mean, look, the movies don't. A movie can live or die. A project can live and die on the strength of production. Production are people. Hey, Shelley.
Yeah.
Um, Good communicators, love helping people, good collaborators. Like Shirley said, you're doing every day is different. You're doing notes one day, you're doing scheduling another day, you're working to try and get someone get their work done in animation. Then you might be in kind of like lighting and comp to try and like help people, finish and paint final scene. It's really fun. It's really exciting. There are lots of many different avenues in production as well. You're not limited to just kind of one skill set because it's not software based. It is knowledge based, which is really cool. And again, I didn't mention this, but it should have been one of those ones that I mentioned that there is a need for production people out there in industry too. So if you feel like that kind of person and you like helping people and you like being kind of like, you know, helping people achieve what they want to do and you're a collaborator and a communicator, please join us because we don't have any production people for next year yet as well. Okay, how are we going for time? Okay, so look, we are at time, but I've got a couple more things that I want to just mention. So if you're all happy to just hang on, I'll try and wrap this up in the next kind of like 5 to 7 minutes or so, if that's all right with everyone. And I'll try and answer any other questions that you've got as well. So let me see. I've seen some graduates with open to work tags on the LinkedIn profile. What are some reasons they don't secure employment upon graduation? And what advice can you share to minimize this happening to you? Really good question. Look, we did have I'm sure you saw on the news that Animal Logic got bought by Netflix last year, or sorry, at the beginning of this year. And that put a few things in flux as well. And we did have a little bit of a dip in the industry, which is, you can't really help that. We also do try to make sure that our graduates aren't just applying to the big three, Flying Bark, Animal Logic, and ILM, because there are just in sort of East Sydney area, we counted them the other, earlier on the year, there's probably about 30 different studios doing VFX and animation, and they all need people. So what the advice would be is to just get in the industry. It's a big part of what we try to show as well, is just to get in. It doesn't matter where it is. All these studios need work. And we've been contacting these smaller studios since last year as well to try and get them to be part of our process too, so we can get them more involved with the students, because I think last year we only really had the main studios come in and talk to the students, and I can see someone's asked that. Yes, we are involving the smaller studios a lot more from now on in terms of these networking kind of components, because we want them to have access to the graduates, and also we want our graduates to work. We used to hit, I think we used to hit like a 93 to 95% or something really high. We dipped a little bit under, but now we're really trying to get up to, we want everyone. We want every one of our grads to get work at the end of the year. And by increasing our kind of network of networking for the smaller studios, we really believe that's going to happen as well. So one more question here. Lighting and rendering are the final steps. What do they do at the beginning? Really good question. So they learn Katana and RenderMan. So again, that's why the software that's not taught. Katana and RenderMan is a very specific piece of software, and it's a very expensive piece of software. And so lighters and compers go through that process of learning that. But it's not just that. They also go through the process of learning the fundamentals of lighting. What does lighting mean? How many lights you use? When do you use them? And so on. We get talkers from industry to come in and talk about this process, when it's used for for live action versus for animated feature film. There's a lot of kind of upskilling done for those departments, more than enough to carry over to be honest, to carry over Studio One. But the second that we've got previs, we actually get the lighters to start lighting previs to test, to start doing early development work on what will be needed for the film later on once we're in production. Okay. So production coordination, what did you include? So, I mean, this says project management case studies, Excel. Look, Excel and ShotGrid is good. I mean, Shirley, you're still using ShotGrid, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Are you using Excel as well?
Yeah.
I
Excel,
mean,
Google Sheets.
Google Sheets, the whole
Yeah.
lot, right? So anything you've done in those, having a knowledge of them is great. Any time management stuff you've used is great as well. But really, look, it's production's about passion. It's about wanting to be in the industry, wanting to help people, wanting to be a people person. It's not about telling people what to do. It's not about kind of gatekeeping information. It is about facilitating and helping others and loving the industry. And Shirley, I think that it's reflected on you as well. And well done, because that, Flying Buck, I know, wanted you to come on board straight away. It was, well done you. But yeah, it's what else? Any other tips for people who want to get in production?
Uh, yep, there's a lot of people. So like I think yeah, there's a difference with like managing like small teams and then like when you're in the industry, it's just a lot bigger. So I think yeah, there's just going to be more communication, a lot of tracking. Um, so it's just more of what you kind of
More,
already know.
more,
More,
be
bigger.
better, be more communicative.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone. So look, before you go, what we're going to do is show you a trailer for last year's project, and then I'm going to let you know something a little bit about it after this. So just enjoy the trailer for Alone. So good. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, it was a finalist in at the Sydney Film Festival this year. We're really proud. It's actually still on the circuit. I don't know if you know this, Shirley, and we can't announce it yet, but it got into like 2 or 3 other film festivals globally. Like, it is just smashing it out there. It's awesome. For anyone who's actually interested in seeing the film, we can't post it online yet, but if you reach out to us and you're interested in doing a one-on-one, you can reach out to us and we can give you a link to watch the film as well, to maybe get you excited about working on something of this quality if you join us too. So there we have it. Any questions? I can see that a couple have come up. All right, what have we got here? Industry experience is required to get in? No, they are not. We just require that it's a master's degree, so there is an education standard that we have to adhere to. But no, industry experience is not required. It's great. We always ask that question because it's interesting to know, but you can get in without it. How much knowledge would you need to have of the other roles when becoming a production coordinator? I mean, none, right, Shirley? Did you know?
No, I mean, I love to browse I like to watch the credit scenes and see all the different roles and wonder what they did, but that's probably it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You will learn. That's the point of the year for production. You will learn very quickly, and you get to know all the departments. It's a really fun process. Excellent. Here we go. Interested in effects. I've been learning Houdini, but I've also gone through some programming courses. Is there any overlap between those two departments during the course? Look, I tell you what, having an understanding of coding in effects is a huge help. It's a benefit. It's not in so much that you would be working in the you'll be working in the TD department, but it would just help you a lot with your day-to-day work in Houdini, because you'll be able to kind of take on more of the sort of technical components of the work, more of the technical shots and assets. And it would really just like help you out a lot if you have that understanding of coding. But in terms of working across them, no, you don't really like, again, same as the industry. If you're in a department, you're in that department. You don't cross over. How long out of uni is too much, or is there no time limit after graduating? In terms of, sorry, could I ask you
I
to
think
just clarify?
bachelor's maybe?
Sorry, what was that?
The bachelor's maybe from to master's?
Yeah, yeah. Is that what you mean? Or after finishing the masters? Could I just get you to clarify that a little bit, if that's okay? And then I'm happy to answer. Do I need to provide a portfolio to apply for jobs if I graduate from an animation program in Melbourne? Is there a GPA requirement? Yeah, I mean, if you're applying for jobs, a job anywhere in Australia, yes, you have to have a portfolio, you have to have a reel, yes, especially if it's for animation. There's no GPA requirement for the MAV. It is just having completed some sort of undergraduate degree or diploma is how you can join us, but there's no GPA requirement. For the portfolio, it's showreel preferred or PDF, and it should be captioned and have description for each work. Either or, doesn't really matter, either or. What I'd like to see though, and what we'd like to see are PDFs or reels or portfolios that are tailored to what you want to do, right? It's great to see a bit of everything, but please at the beginning, at the front, at the top, whatever, show us the work specific to the department that you're applying for, because that will be a huge help. What I will say though, here's something great that I get to say this, and you remind me of something. So great question, thank you. If it's a PDF, please don't get too concerned about making it look pretty, right? That's kind of gets in the way a lot of the time, because if there's all these kind of beautiful text and fonts and patterns, we just want to see the work. So honestly, a Google Drive folder with just your files and images thrown in that is sometimes better than a beautifully designed PDF, because that stuff can get a little bit difficult to see through the noise. After bachelor's, there is no time limit at all to apply to us after your bachelor's. We've had people who have been in the industry. We had someone who's been in the industry for 13 years and finished their bachelor's degree 17 years ago, and they joined us in the lighting department. No time limit whatsoever, or age limit. That'll be, open for everyone. People who want to cross skill, people who want to try something different, it's all there and available. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. So here we go to download the info pack, and for more information about, and this will have everything on there completely of what we just spoke about in more details. If you just go to our website, animallogicacademy.uts.edu.au, you can find everything there. Download this PDF and all that information is there. Now, if you have more questions and you want a bit more clarity on any of this, you can book a one-on-one with one of the leads, myself or one of the other leads, in terms of what department you're interested in. It's a 15-minute chat to go over any of your questions. And we can also take a look at your portfolio too, if you have any specific questions about that as well. That should pretty much be it, I think. So please stay in touch. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it kind of clarified a few things for you, and hopefully it got some of you excited for joining us next year. Applications are open. We're still filling all the departments, so please reach out. Something I will say is reach out, even if you don't think you're there yet, please do reach out and get in contact, because what we're showing you here and what you've seen tonight are examples of the work done by the students at the end of the year, okay, after they've gone through the process. At the beginning of the year, it's a very, very different story. So please don't be kind of intimidated by that or think you're not up to that standard. The point of this course is to get you to that standard. So if you're in doubt, apply, or contact us for a one-on-one, and we're happy to have a chat to you about that. Stay in touch, follow us on our social channels, because we post things like this all the time. We've got a in-person webinar coming up soon too, so you can come and visit the studio and check us out, because if this didn't sell it, the studio really does. It's a really, really fun space. Hey, Shirley, it's a cool environment. And yeah, hopefully, we're all about kind of building this industry. It's not just for us, it's for every studio out there. We want to help the Australian animation industry and VFX industry. And so that's sort of like our goal here. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And Shirley, thank you so much as well for taking time out of your busy life to
All
join us
good.
too.
Happy to be here. And I think one more thing is that the biggest takeaway from the whole math program is that you get to spend really good time with all the leads, and they're really good mentors for just your whole career path. They're always open to kind of give feedback and help you out with your portfolios. So I think that's the one thing, like one advantage of doing the math program.
Awesome. Thanks, Shirley.
Oh, good.
Excellent. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And thank you very much for joining us tonight. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.